Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the Etch E-Sign webinar. My name is Ryan Kent, and I'm a developer advocate here at Anvil. Today, we're going to be talking about E-Sign, specifically from a development perspective. At the end of the presentation, there will be some time for Q&A, so leave any questions you have here in the chat. So to start, let's give a quick recap on Anvil and what and who we are. Anvil is a developer-first infrastructure for building software that automates paperwork. What this means is that we provide you with all the tools, both from a no-code and an API perspective, to easily collect information, prepare documents, and send it out for e-signature. Every feature within Anvil has a robust API that can be integrated into your product. We like to think of it as no-code meets pro-code. We take all the mundane, tedious parts of software development, like building web forms or mapping it to PDFs, and we make it easy to do in our user interface. Anvil's platform consists of several products that together solve paperwork challenges. The platform is customizable, embeddable, and can be integrated into your products for better results. We have web forms, which are the no-code solution. You can easily set up really complex dynamic web forms to support any of your data collection needs. We have PDF services, which are for document generation. We have Etch E-Sign, which gives you a way to easily request signatures as part of your data-driven document process. And tying it all together, we have workflows. These help you collect data from your users, automatically fill PDFs with their data, and gather signatures from the relevant people. Today, we will be focusing on Anvil Etch E-Sign API, which allows you to collect e-signatures from within your app. You can send a signature packet, including multiple PDFs, images, and other uploads to one or more signers. Templatize your common PDFs, then fill them with your user's information before sending them out in a signature packet. You can customize the look and feel of the e-signature experience to match your brand, customizing the signatures page, text, and colors via the signature page options variable on the create etch packet mutation. Or you can style the page with a custom CSS style sheet. Moreover, you can embed a signature iframe directly into your application, or even provide a single-use URL to provide a secure, seamless experience for your end users. Getting started with Etch E-Sign is very easy. Just follow these 3 simple steps. First, you need to authorize your API. We covered this in a previous webinar. You just need to grab your API keys from your settings inside of your logged in Anvil session. Next, you need to create the Etch packet. And finally, you need to send the Etch packet out for signatures. For today's webinar, we're going to focus on the embedded signing experience. The create etch packet GraphQL mutation allows you to create and send a signature packet in a single API call. This is the most common and often the only signature-related API mutation you will need. To request signatures, you'll need to provide a list of documents that you need to be signed. They can either be uploaded directly, or you can simply reference the ID of a PDF template that you've previously set up inside of Anvil. Next, you will need to provide the data to fill in that template. If there are fields that you want completed, you would have to include that as part of the data payload. We support this via a payloads object nested in the data key. You also need to set up the signers. In a templated Anvil PDF, we will have specific boxes for signatures, and you will have to identify the signers, which requires a name and an email, as well as which boxes they're supposed to sign. This is all part of the data payload that gets sent up as part of the create etch packet mutation. By default, we will solicit all signatures via email. But you can customize that using embedded signers. You can generate a signing links, which can be embedded into your app or website. To set up an embedded signer, set the signer type of any signer in your packet to embedded. That signer will not be sent an email when it's time to sign. Instead, you will control the entire signature process via a sign URL created by the generate etch sign URL mutation. You can either send the signer their own unique signer URL or embed the signer URL in your application using an iframe. If you have a redirect URL set up for your signer, the iframe will be redirected to a designated URL when they are finished signing. You can enable embedding of production packets from the API tab in your organization settings. Once you enable embedding, you will be asked to add your domains to a whitelist. Note that you need to whitelist any domains that will hold an embedded signing iframe. The next thing you need to do is send the packet out for signature. When you create the Etch packet, it's created in draft mode. If you want to make tweaks to it, you can make other API requests to modify it. But when you're ready to send and share the packet for signature, you need to call the send etch packet GraphQL mutation. Another thing you can do is you can use the same mutation to resend the packet. You might need to do this if the signature token has expired, as there is a time limit to these signature tokens. When that happens, the signer needs to request a new signature link, and you can do that through the API request. As I mentioned before, you can specify a custom style sheet injected into the signature page for all signers. This style sheet can be served from your website, giving you full control over the custom styles. This allows you to easily change the look and feel of your application. You can add your brand styling and logo to your e-signature process, or provide your users with a custom finish screen. You can apply styling to your entire organization, a particular workflow, or even when creating individual signature packets. You can even manage multiple styles depending on the document you are using. The signing URL from the generate etch sign URL mutation will include a token with a short expiration timestamp. You can control the duration of the token on a per signer basis by changing the value of token valid for minutes in the signer's field. You can also set up a signing URL to be only accessible for a single use. The default token expiration on the signing URL is short by design. This provides an additional layer of security for your users. When it is time for your user to sign documents, it is recommended the user visits a URL in your own system. That route should verify the user is who they say they are, then call the generate etch sign URL mutation, which will immediately redirect them to a fresh signing URL or an embedded page. I've mentioned GraphQL before, but I'm going to provide a little more context here on what it is and why it's useful. GraphQL is a query language for APIs and a runtime for filling those queries with existing data. It lets us approach requests for data in a more natural way. What's powerful about GraphQL is the way it allows us to write fewer, more precise requests to get all the data we need in one go. GraphQL queries are used to retrieve data. GraphQL also has a mechanism for changing or writing new values to data called a mutation. This means that you can use a GraphQL mutation to change data, such as populating a PDF template. A best practice when working with mutations is to return the object of data the mutating operation affects. That means that if we change something particular in a database, we should also retrieve the thing we updated in response, such as our newly filled out PDF. This makes GraphQL an extremely powerful tool when testing our Etch E-Sign requests, which I'll show you how to do in just a sec. Now it's time to put it all together. For this demo, I'm going to show you my Postman setup. This was actually created as a fork of the Postman repository linked in our Etch E-Sign API docs. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we are authorized with our Anvil API key. So if I go to my environments, I can see that yes, I've put in an API key in the appropriate section. Now back at my collection, I need to include that environment, and that will apply the key to my entire Etch embedded environment. Now I need to look at the GraphQL setup. So this is a mutation for create Etch packet. And I can, as I said before, all of this information was already input here as it was forked from our API docs. The variables are me assigning particular values to certain things depending on the document that I'm using. So in these variables, there's a few things that I want to make sure of. First is the style sheet. Because I want to include a custom style sheet for my signature process, I need to include this style sheet URL here. I can also include individual stylings that are different from what the style sheet is saying. The next thing I need to make sure of is my cast EID. You can get this from your Anvil account for any template that you've created. This is one that I created for just a simple NDA. Next, I need to ensure that all of my signers are set up correctly. So I have a signer, and then the fields are which pieces of information on the document I want filled out. Finally, I need to make sure that the signer type is set to embedded. This will allow me to embed the result of this mutation in any application that I wish to use. So now that all that is set up, I'm just going to run it here. And then this provides me with some information. The signer's EID and client user EID from my packet can be found in this response to my GraphQL mutation. I need them when generating the sign URL mutation because this is how I will actually get information for the next step, which is this generate etch sign URL here. So I can copy that into the client user ID there, copy the EID from here into this part here. And now when I run this, I've generated a custom URL for a signer. Now I can either command click and follow this link directly, which will bring me to its own unique signing page. Or if I want, I can actually add this to a different application. So I'm going to share this here. So I'm now looking at a demo that I built out to use this signing URL. This is just a simple application that allows me to embed an iframe inside of it using the URL that I just created from Postman. So if I go back to there, you can actually see this application. And when I run it, voila, it has the iframe embedded with my custom styling. So this is not the default Anvil styling, which is normally a light green shade for most of these features. It is my own personal styling that I have made using that custom style sheet. So I can accept, I give consent, I start styling. You notice that this is already filled out with some information, as that is information that I put into the GraphQL variables. When I'm done signing, it even takes me to a page where I can download all of the documents to prove that I've signed everything and everything is in order. It even comes with the Anvil certificate. Now, if you want to see, this is what our style sheet looks like that I am using. It's just this simple CSS file that I am just putting straight into the styling of my document. So it's very easy to implement your own custom stylings if you wish. So that is it for the demo. So next webinar, we'll have basic workflow building, where we'll talk about web form basics and logic, adding signers, testing a workflow, and handling multiple documents. Now it's time for the Q&A. So any questions? All right. So one question is, can I have a different style for each time I present the signature UI? And yeah, you can add styling on individual mutations, which means that every time you create a new signing document, you can apply your own unique styling to it, which is different than if you had already set up a styling for your organization or even a styling for an individual template. You can override that in the mutation if you desire. Another question is, if I don't want to use CSS, is there a simpler way? And yeah, you can actually add little bits of styling similar to what I showed in the styling object, where you don't call a styling sheet, you just call out particular options and what color or theme you want them to be. Another question we received is, what happens if the signature page URL gets out? So this is why it's important to keep the timestamp of the signature page low. We also have the option to have a single use URL, which means that it can only be accessed once. So normally the duration of the signature page URL, it has a token that will expire in just a few hours, which means once you send it out to someone, they need to sign it quickly. Otherwise, they won't be able to access it until you resend it. But as we've also said, we have single use URL options that allow you to make it so it can only be accessed once, so that multiple people will not have access to any of the information in the page. Another question we received is, do all signers need an Anvil account? And no, that is one of the beauties of Anvil. You can have it set up so that the signers do not all need to have an account, and you can control the flow of who gets the information, regardless of whether they are signed up with Anvil or not. Makes it very easy to do document flows with lots of people. Another question received is, can you embed a signature page behind a logged in app experience? And yeah, so one of the cool things, similar to that demo that I showed, it was just a simple app that has an embedded signature page in it. You can actually link data from the logged in user to the data you have in your Anvil account, so that you can pull up unique signing pages based on who is logged in, which makes that experience really seamless and easy to integrate. All right, another question is, can you have a mix of embedded and email signers in a single flow? So you can set each signer to a different type if you have multiple signers in the same workflow. So depending on which signers you want to receive a document via email versus a signing URL, you can customize and modify that based on the signers. So how to whitelist the domains from an iframe? To do that, you need to go into your Anvil account, then go to your app settings, and under API, it will have an area for whitelisting domains. You have to first enable embedding And once you have enabled embedding, you will be able to choose which domains you want to have whitelisted. And as I said before, you actually need to set up whitelisting if you want to use an embeddable iframe inside of any of your applications. All right. And I think that was all the questions for today. So I hope you guys learned something. And as always, if you have any further questions, feel free to email us at support@useanvil.com. And looking forward to talking with you next time.